we're in Illustrator now, and this is the point where if you have your pictogram designed, I need you to check that the page is the right size. Now, this is really important. If you're working as a graphic designer and someone asks you to design a poster that's A2 or A1 or A4 or something like that, you have to have the page the right size, okay? So this is my pictogram. This is my pictogram here. And the other thing I want to show is, apart from making sure the page is the right size, I want you guys, you know, we could eyeball this and put it somewhere around the middle of the page, but it's better to kind of measure the page and make sure that it's slap bang in the middle. So I'm just going to put it off center for now to make it really obvious. So the first thing we're going to do is there's a tool over here on the left hand side called the Artboard Tool. So there's a few ways of doing this, but this is probably the handiest. If you click on that, and you'll see some measurements come up the top here. So the height of this page, or sorry, the width of this page is 210 millimeters, and the height is 297 millimeters. That's an A4 page. Now you'll start to learn these. 210 by 297 is A4. By the end of the year, you'll know these off by heart, okay? An A4 page is 420. Now make sure it says millimeters by 594. 594 millimeters. Okay, so that's our page. Now, I'm going to zoom out. There's a quick way of doing it. The slow way is if you come down here to this, and if you hold down Alt, and it'll zoom out. I find it easier if you hold down the Command button and minus, it zooms out. Okay, so now we have our page. It's the right size, but our image is way too small on it. So I'm just going to scale that up a little bit. So I'm here on this selection tool. I'm going to go to the corner here, and I'm going to hold down Shift to make sure I don't stretch it or warp it. And I'm going to, do I want it? I'll go a little bit bigger. Let's go bigger. Get it to fit a good bit of the page. Something like that. Okay, now I'm just going to put it off center. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to introduce you to is the idea of rulers and guides in Illustrator. Okay, so what we can do is, like, I know I've made this 420 by 594, but I can't tell where the middle of that is. And I can't tell where the middle of that is. Okay, so what we need to get up is rulers. So if you go up to View, Rulers, and Show Rulers. Okay, and you'll see, I don't know if you noticed there, but rulers pop up along the outside here. Okay, to do that quickly, if you hit Command or, so just think of or for rulers, and if you hit Command or on and off, the rulers appear. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, I have my own, well, I didn't invent this, I'm sure somebody did, I'm sure before me, but I have a quick way of finding, if you want to find the center of that page, okay, and the center this way as well. So I go over to this rectangle tool and I click on it, and then I draw a rectangle. Now I make sure that the rectangle, if I click and drag, that it's the height of the page, okay, and what I have there is, see that little, I'll click to this, see the blue dot there in the middle of that rectangle that I just drew? That's the middle point of that page. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do a line across here. Okay, so we have these things in Illustrator called guides, and they're really handy. You're going to use them a lot this year, and well, for your whole career as a graphic designer, for dividing up pages. Okay, now when we put guides on a page, you can see them on screen, but they don't print out. Okay, they're just like margins and rulers. Okay, but they're not actually part of your design. So to get a guide, and I'm going to drag it along here, if you watch this black arrow, right, and when I go up, actually it hasn't changed, let me go on to, let's say I'm on this tool here, okay, and if I come up into the rulers, you'll see the arrow kind of, the black arrow appears, and if I click and start to drag, don't know if you, can you guys see that on the overhead, a line has appeared? So I'm going to drag that down, and I'm going to line it up with that blue dot at the center there. Okay, so I'm going to come up, I'm just going to delete that out of there so you can see. So that's the very center of that page. Okay, now I need another line here. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle the width of the page there. And if I come over to this side of the rulers and click and drag, I'll get a line. Can you guys see that? It's hard to see on the monitor, but okay, so there's my, let me go up here and delete that. So now this is that's the very center of that page. Okay, now these guides, I can click and move them. Let me just, I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. it's a good idea at this stage, when you have all your guides in, you can lock them in place, okay? If I go to View, Guides, and Lock Guides, just because sometimes by accident you might click on them and move them around and then you mess the whole thing up. So what I want to do now is, that makes it much easier for me to position this right in the middle of the page. What I'm looking at is, here's my pictogram. This little, that box there is the center of the pictogram, and this is the center of it this way. So if I click on this and drag it, okay, so now I've lined it bang up on the center of that page, okay? Now, sometimes it gets a little bit distracting that you have these lines here. Can everyone stay quiet, please? Do you mind? So sometimes it gets a bit distracting having these sort of blue lines all across your design. So you can turn them on and off. If you go up to View again, Guides, like when you think about anything in these software programs, if something's on screen and you don't want to look at it, it's more than likely under View. So I can go up View and Hide Guides, okay? And if you actually look at this menu here, you'll see next to Hide Guides, there's this squiggly shape and a little semicolon, okay? That's shape there represents the command button on your keyboard, and the semicolon represents the semicolon key on your keyboard. So if I click on that, it turns them on and off. But again, try get used to keyboard commands. If I hit the command button and the semicolon, it turns them on and off. Okay, so if you find yourself in any program whatsoever, whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, any software program, that you're all the time going up to View, Guides, Hide Guides, okay, View, okay, this is taking ages, Guides, Show Guides. Start to look, like if you look at any of them, like Command H is Hide Edges, Rulers is Command R, Guides is, you know, Command Semicolon. This little funny squiggly thing here is the Alt button. So just if you know, Command U is for Smart Guides. It's just a handy thing. Start getting used to kind of using keyboard commands. So I'm ready to print that now. So I'm going to save it. And always remember, if I click up here, this little button, and then down to this RNY854 and in Student, and there's a folder here for me, and I'm going to call this Pictogram. Now I'm ready to print that now. I just click OK. I need to put that into Google Drive, or I need to email it to myself, because the plotter in this room is hooked up to that machine in the corner there. So I won't do this here. I'm gonna stop the video now, but you would email to yourself, and then I'll show you on the other machine how to print. Okay.